everyone, my name is Anna-Liza and I'm a schools recruitment officer here at Swinburne. I mainly work with career practitioners across Victoria and also interstate and engage with students amongst year 10s, 11s and 12s. And today I would like to welcome you to the Plan of Attack session. But before we get started, I'd first like to do an acknowledgement of country. In the spirit of reconciliation, Swinburne University of Technology acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to the elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. So in today's session, we're actually going to be giving you an overview of Swinburne, including our pathway options, scholarships, professional placements, and of course, everything you need to know about applying via VTAC. And today with me, I would like to introduce our host of experts, including my colleague Danielle Franks, who is the school's recruitment officer, Lauren Connelly, the VTAC team leader from our admissions team, and also Rachel Chen, who is currently a student studying with us at Swinburne, and she's studying the Bachelor of Film and TV, and she's also a student ambassador. So you may recognise her from previous events and perhaps some webinars. And just a few housekeeping guidelines. If you are wanting to ask us some questions, we do have a live chat function, which should be available on the bottom of your screen. Feel free to shoot us any questions and we will attend to them at the end of this session. However, we do have colleagues behind the scenes as well, so they may just answer your questions then and there. And we'd also are launching some poll questions throughout this session. So when you do see them pop up on your screen, please go ahead and answer them as you see them because we'd love to have your feedback. So let's dive in straight into the session. Swinburne is a dual sector university, meaning we have vocational education, which you may know as TAFE, and we also offer higher education. This means we have quite a lot of pathway options for you. Some students may start from a certificate, then pathway into a diploma, and then into a degree. But some of you may just jump straight into a degree. It's completely up to the individual. And I might hand over to Danny, and perhaps you can provide a brief overview on how pathways look at Swinburne.
Thanks, Anna. That's right. It's about taking what students have achieved and identifying a pathway into their dream course. In addition to certificates and diplomas, students also pathway via the UniLink diploma. Unique to Swinburne, UniLink diplomas mirror the first year of a bachelor degree, but are just offered in a much more supported environment. After the first year of a UniLink diploma, students will then progress into the second year of a bachelor's degree. Thanks to all of our pathway options, including certificates, diplomas, and UniLink diplomas, no matter what happens at the end of year 12, Swinburne has an option for you.
Thanks, Danny. And it's important to note here that most of our bachelor degree entry requirements have an ATAR requirement, but a lot of our pathway options don't. So there really is something for everyone at Swinburne. The VTAC course search will give you the most information about this. You may notice that some degrees have a minimum ATAR requirement and some have a guaranteed ATAR requirement. I'll go into more about what this means later on in the presentation. In addition to what I've said, there may be some of you who have submitted an application for the early entry program at Swinburne, which does not require an ATAR for entry. However, applicants are still expected to meet minimum study score requirements and successfully complete year 12.
Awesome. Thank you, Danny and Lauren. And for those who would be joining Swinburne next year, we also have a new program called the Professional Purpose, which will help identify and foster your career goals while you're studying at Swinburne. I might throw back to Danny. Could you please just shed some light in terms of exactly what Professional Purpose is?
I'd love to. The Professional Purpose Program functions like a life and career planner. It aims to align your study choices with your interests in order to ensure that you are on the path to a fulfilling career. The program is designed to run alongside your bachelor degree, only requiring a few hours each year to complete, a rather small investment to make towards ensuring you're on a career path that is the right fit for you.
Thanks, Daddy. And not to get it confused with professional purpose, but we also offer something called professional degrees. We do have a large range of professional degrees here at Swinburne across many of our study disciplines. And at Swinburne, we really like to make sure our students make the most of their opportunity while studying with us. Danny, I know you've actually worked alongside many of our students who have gone on placement. Could you name some of the Swinburne placement partners we have?
Thank you, Anna. Yes, Swinburne is very well known for our connection to industry because let's face it, work can be hard to find even with a degree, and having industry experience has set so many students up with employment straight out of university. It's not even uncommon for some of our students to receive job offers before graduating. Students can spend 6 or 12 months in paid full-time work on a placement or 12 weeks in an internship. Swinburne has a dedicated team on campus to support students in securing the opportunity to work with partners like the Richmond Football Club, NAB Bank, City of Yarra, Metro Trains, Royal Melbourne Hospital, Peter Mac, Zoos Victoria, Qantas, the Centre for Astrophysics and Supercomputing, and the list just goes on.
Yeah, Danny, it sounds like quite a list we have for professional degree placements. So not only with professional degrees and professional purpose would Swinburne foster your education, something you also should take into consideration is scholarships. And the way you apply for a scholarship is quite different. There's a range of different ways to apply, essentially. You can apply via VTAC, you can submit a direct application, and there will be some scholarships you're available for you just based on the application you do submit to Swinburne. There are also more scholarships available for you once you commence as a student for both domestic and international students. Danny, I might throw to you to chat about the different types of Swinburne scholarships and how to apply for them.
Well, some of our scholarships include allowances for regional and Indigenous students. There's extra support if you've experienced any financial hardship. There's scholarships that are discipline specific and also those that reward academic merit. Rachel, I know you received the Vice Chancellor's scholarship from Swinburne. Can you tell us more about what it is, how you applied for it, and how it's helped you?
Yeah, for sure, Danny. So the Vice Chancellor Scholarship is a merit-based scholarship. It's based on your ATAR at the end of year 12, and an ATAR of 95 and over is required to obtain the scholarship. The scholarship gives you $5,000 every year for the normal duration of your course, as well as a one-off $2,000 for an overseas placement or study tour. I didn't need to apply for this scholarship, so it's something that Swinburne automatically gives you as long as you put one of the Swinburne courses in your top 8 VTAC preferences. In terms of how it's helped me, the Vice Chancellor Scholarship has meant that the funds I've allocated to an overseas study tour, and that also meant that I didn't have to worry too much about the costs of these overseas trips.
Awesome. Thanks, Rach. For those joining us at home, you should see our poll number 1 pop up on your screen now. So please go ahead and give it a click. And just to touch back on your study tour experience, Rach, because I do see you quite a lot in the office, I do know you have travelled to Europe, but could you just tell the audience a little bit about your scholarship and what it paid for and whereabouts in Europe you travelled?
Yeah, so the $5,000 I usually put towards like a new computer or invest in new equipment, especially because I'm studying a bachelor's of film and television. The $2,000 I put towards my most recent study tour. So I went to Berlin as part of the Berlin Film Festival with some of my film and TV classmates. And the funds really helped in terms of covering flights and also covering the program costs required to attend.
Awesome. Thank you, Rachel. And I just want to make a special note that if you are interested in traveling overseas while studying at Swinburne, you don't necessarily need to obtain the VC scholarship. There are a lot of study options for you if you'd like to travel overseas. We do have study tours, which generally go for 2 weeks. And we also have something called study exchange or the exchange program. Well, you go overseas and study for a semester or 2 semesters. And the great thing about both of these programs is whatever you've studied overseas will then be credited back once you return to Swinburne. So there's no need to repeat those units or take on any additional units at all. I can just see poll 2 has jumped up on the screen, so please go and give it a click again. We'd love to hear your feedback. But now I'd like to hand over to Lauren, who will provide you information on VTAC and how it all works.
So before we go a bit further into information about VTAC and its processes, I just wanted to take you all through some key terms so that we're all on the same page going forward. VTAC stands for the Victorian Tertiary Admission Centre, and they collate applications on behalf of institutions. Change of preference, which we commonly refer to as COP, is the period of time that students are able to rearrange their preferences in their VTAC application. There are very strict dates and times that this can be done, so make sure you're aware of when these COP periods are. ATAR stands for the Australian Tertiary Admission Rank, and it's the number between 0.00 and 99.95. The ATAR is an estimate of the percentage of the population that you outperformed. So if you receive an ATAR of 60, that means you performed better than 60% of students that year. A study score is the individual score that a student receives for each VCE subject that they've undertaken. Students will receive a raw score, that's a reflection of how well they did in the subject, and a scaled score, and that's an indication of how well the student did in relation to every other student that undertook the same subject. The maximum study score a student can receive is 50, and these study scores are usually combined and ranked to generate the ATAR. A prerequisite subject is a VCE subject that has been identified by an institution as being appropriate prerequisite knowledge to enter into a course. Students who don't complete the prerequisite subject or don't achieve the correct study score in that subject won't be eligible to receive an offer. VTAC serves all of the institutes in Victoria, and each state or territory has their own version of a TAC that services the institutions within that state. So if you are interested in an institution from another state, you'll have to make an additional application through the relevant TAC. VTAC is the central point for applications, but they don't do any application assessment themselves. They collate all of the information that students provide and then forward that information to institutions for selection. Institutions will only receive your information if you include them in your preference list, and students are able to include up to 8 preferences, which enables them to be considered for multiple courses and multiple institutions. So what you'll see on each of the Swinburne course pages and the VTAC course pages for the Swinburne courses is either a guaranteed ATAR for the year or a minimum ATAR. If there is a guaranteed ATAR, that means that if you receive that ATAR or a higher ATAR and complete all of the requirements for that course, so mainly the prerequisite units, you will be guaranteed an offer for that course. However, if you don't receive an ATAR that's equivalent to the guaranteed, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're out of the running. Each course at Swinburne that uses an ATAR for entry will have data similar to the data you see at the top of this slide on the course search page. If your ATAR is in the range of this section, which is ATAR excluding adjustment factors, it would be worth you listing it as a preference, as you could still receive an offer for the course. If there is a minimum ATAR listed against the course, that means that you must achieve that ATAR either naturally or including adjustment factors like special entry access scheme and subject adjustments to be eligible for the course. As a minimum ATAR, we can't lower it any further. At Swinburne, we choose to participate in the following adjustment factors, which are C's, which is the Special Entry Access Scheme, subject adjustments, regional adjustments, and the Early Leaders Program adjustment, which is an exclusive program to Swinburne. These adjustment factors don't change your ATAR, but they do increase your chances for being offered a particular course. More information about adjustment factors will be on each VTAC course listing. So I'm hoping that with the aid of this visual cue, what I said in the previous slide will make more sense. So let's look at these students who seem to be members of the Spice Girls and Backstreet Boys and whether they'll get an offer for a place in this course. So as we can see, the guaranteed ATAR for this course is 85. So Mel received an ATAR of 95, she got an offer. Jerry received an ATAR of 90, as well as some adjustment factors, and ended up with a new selection rank of 95. So she got an offer for the course. Victoria received an ATAR of 85, which is equal to the guaranteed ATAR, so she got an offer for the course. Emma received an ATAR of 80, but did not receive any adjustment factors. So because she didn't meet the guaranteed ATAR, she was not eligible to receive an offer. AJ had a lower ATAR than Emma at 75, but he did receive adjustment factors from C's, subject adjustments, and a regional adjustment, which ended up giving him a new selection rank of 86. So he got an offer. Howie received an ATAR of 70, but unfortunately no adjustment factors, so he's not eligible to receive an offer. So as we can see in this case, not meeting the guaranteed ATAR for a course doesn't necessarily exclude you from receiving an offer. Make sure you take a look at the adjustment factors for each course, particularly the VCE subjects that receive adjustment factors, and these will change depending on the course to see whether you may be eligible to receive an offer.
Awesome. Thank you, Lauren. That was some really insightful information for our high school students. And I love the use of Spice Girls and Backstreet Boys. It definitely speaks more to my generation, I'd say. But our final poll has popped up, so please let us know what you think. We definitely appreciate all of your feedback. And I can see that some of you have been shooting over quite a lot of questions via the chat function. Please feel free to send some over to us. We will be going through them. And as I mentioned, if we can't get to them right now, there will be a few people behind the scenes answering your questions via text. So the first question I'm going to answer is from Ashley. And Ashley asks, how has Swinburne supported you through the transition to online learning? Do you think you'll still be studying online next year? Great question, Ashley. With the peak of the pandemic, there's no hard yes or no question for your second part, but I will hand over to Rachel and she perhaps can give you some insight from a student perspective.
Yeah, good question, Ashley. A lot of my units this semester especially have been supercharged, so to speak. I'm doing an Indigenous elective this semester, and they've rejigged the whole course to make it a lot more accessible online. So for example, you do half a seminar worth of lectures and then half a seminar worth of discussions with your other fellow students. And then you also throughout the week have prescribed readings and movies to watch. I feel like with learning under COVID restrictions, especially, I have a lot more time on my hands, so I don't get as stressed in terms of balancing my readings and falling behind on those. In terms of learning online, maybe semester 1 at 2021, I see it as a possibility. It's probably easier for the social science and business electives to be online learning, but I think with my film and television subjects especially, I could consider going back in campus, but yeah, we'll see.
Thanks so much, Rachel. And Swinburne's definitely taking measures to make sure our campus is as safe as possible once our students return. Another question is from Raj. He says, hi, I want to get into engineering, but first have to complete Maths Link. In which VTAC round will I receive an offer because Maths Link is taken in January? Thank you, Raj, and I'm so glad you've done your research. And I might hand over to Lauren from our admissions team to answer that question.
Sure. So if anyone in the audience isn't aware, we do have this program at Swinburne called MathsLink, which is designed to act as a prerequisite for courses that either have a further maths requirement or a maths methods requirement. So if you didn't complete a maths in year 12, or you did, but you didn't get the right study score, you might consider MathsLink as an option to get into your course. So MathsLink does start in January and goes for a period of about 6 weeks. So we would not be able to offer students who complete MathsLink until the final round of VTAC, which would be February round 4. So you'll just have to hold out for those offers until that final round.
Great, thank you, Lauren. I do have another question for you from Timothy, and he asks, how do I know how many C's points I will receive from Swinburne?
Okay, so that's a really good question. So it's important to note first that C's applications are actually submitted direct to VTAC, and VTAC are the ones that assess a student's C's application. Because of that, I don't have a great oversight of what information is communicated to students. But at Swinburne, we do have a handy resource to give students a general idea of how many C's points that they would be eligible for. So if you search on our website for C's calculator, SEAS, you should be able to locate a calculator that will give you a rough idea of how many adjustment points, including C's, you may receive for your circumstances and for the specific course that you're interested in.
Awesome. Thank you, Lauren. Another question is from Sarah, and she asks, I'm aiming to score 95 plus and get the VC scholarship, but I don't know if I should take a gap year. Can I defer this scholarship if I wanted to travel next year? Awesome. Thank you, Sarah, for asking that question. And I'm really glad that you're proactive in asking the types of deferment options we have at Swinburne. But in relation to your question, unfortunately, you can't defer the VC scholarship. I'm going to assume you're in year 12 this year. So if you are in year 12 this year, you would need to commence in semester 1 of 2021 to obtain the VC scholarship. But this also raises a good point in regards to deferment options at Swinburne. So although we do welcome deferment options, meaning you can hold your place for a semester or two, it doesn't actually reflect all of our courses. So please be mindful when you're putting in your VTAC preferences or going through our course page to check out if deferment is available. The two common courses that cannot be deferred is the Diploma of Nursing and the Bachelor of Film and TV. Okay, the next question has come through, May, and she's asked, I've heard Swinburne have ATAR free entry this year. What is this and how do I know if I'm eligible? Great question, May. I might hand back over to Lauren.
Cool, thanks, Anna. So yes, we do have an ATAR free entry method this year, and it's called the Early Entry Program. We haven't done it before, but we did create this program in recognition of the disrupted school year that especially Victorian students have had. And we just wanted to recognise that a few students out there may not be able to achieve their full potential based on what's going on. So the early entry program requires students to get a recommendation from their school and submit an application to Swinburne for assessment by a certain deadline. Unfortunately, the deadline for these applications was the 11th of September, so applications for the 2021 early entry program have now closed. If you haven't yet submitted an application, unfortunately it is too late for this year, but if you are at all worried about your end of year results, we would invite you to consider our many pathway options to assist you to get into your dream course.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Lauren. Another question that has come through is from Eliza. And Eliza asks, I haven't gotten an early entry offer, but I know a few people who have. Is it still possible for me to receive an offer? Will I be told if I didn't get it? Great question, Eliza. And I'll pass over to Danny to answer that one.
Yes, that really is a great question. And I know many students would be asking the same. Swinburne is busy processing the high amount of applications that we did receive for the program, and we're busy sending offers out on a staggered basis. So yes, you can still expect to receive a conditional offer. Even if you don't receive an early entry offer, Swinburne still retains a strong interest in your application, and that you might still be eligible for an offer in one of the official VTAC rounds in January or February as further places become available, given that you've satisfied all of the course requirements and prerequisites.
Awesome. Thank you, Danny. I have a question for Rach here, and this question is from Nick. And he asks, do you get to choose which countries you want to do your overseas exchange in?
Yeah, good question. So I've only experienced going on study tours with Swinburne, and those you can't actually choose which country the study tour takes you on, but there's a range of study tours that Swinburne offers. So for example, there is the Berlin Film and TV one, there are games and animation ones who go to Japan, and then there's other ones where you go to the different continents as well. In terms of the Swinburne exchange program, Swinburne partners with a lot of different universities from around the world. So you do have a lot of options in terms of countries to choose from and neighboring countries to visit while you're away on exchange as well. And in arts, degrees in particular, especially like mine, film and television, we usually partner with external exchange programs in partnership with Swinburne, such as Artbound as well. And they usually partner you with a university that suits the speciality that you want to specialize in or the interests that you have.
Awesome. Thank you, Rach. And just to add on your answer, we actually do have something called the Study Abroad team based on campus. So I do recommend reaching out to them if you are interested in conducting a study tour or perhaps go on study exchange. They can definitely sit down and talk to you in regards to scholarships, how to actually pay for travel, and which potentially units you can study overseas. And another question we have is from Zaina. And Zaina asks, hi, I want to apply for the business professional degree. And I was wondering, how do students go on placement during a pandemic? Great question, Zaina, and very relevant to today. I will pass over to Danny to answer this one.
Yes, well, it really has thrown a spanner in the works this year, Anna, and placements have moved online where possible. Students typically go on placement in their later years of uni, which means if you're a year 12 student watching now, we trust that in 2 or 3 years' time, things will be open and running back to normal once again.
Thanks, Danny. And I sure hope that will be running back to normal less than 3 years from now. But I do have another question from AJ, and AJ asks, I've listed the Diploma of Nursing in my VTAC preference list and have also submitted a direct application. Do I just accept the offer I get first and reject the other offer? Great question, AJ. I will throw to Lauren from admissions for you.
Sure. Hi, AJ. So unfortunately, if you have an active VTAC account, or even if you are a current Year 12 student, you must do all of your course applications through VTAC, and you aren't able to apply directly to any institution. Our admissions team will send you an email about your direct application to let you know that you need to preference that particular course in VTAC, and will withdraw your direct application on your behalf.
Thank you, Lauren, for answering that question. I do have another one from Elliot, and Elliot asks, hi, I'm a father of a Year 11 student, and I wanted to ask Rachel what kind of research she did to decide what uni she wanted to attend. We live far out from Melbourne, and this year due to COVID, there weren't any on-campus open days. Great question, Elliot. I'll throw to you, Rach.
Yeah, really good question. So obviously I did some preliminary research when I was in Year 11 and Year 12, just trying to filter down the type of courses that I was interested in and the type of courses in terms of location that was suitable for myself personally. Of course, you've got your course advisors from your high schools that your child can, book an appointment with, and they were really good in terms of helping me figure out what sort of opportunities there were at particular universities and what sort of courses I could look at based on how my studies were going in Year 12 and Year 11. Obviously, due to the situation of COVID and everything that's going on, all of the universities have moved online with their open days this year. Swinburne have been quite cool and in with the times, developing the Swintopia. So it's basically how the Hawthorn campus looks in real life. And your child can, log on, have a look around, and that kind of gives them a baseline in terms of what the Swinburne campus looks like and feels like. Of course, you've got the course advisors as well that you can tap into through Swinburne, and you can obviously book a one-on-one anytime you like, have a chat with them, and figure out from there how best to move forward in terms of figuring out the best course for yourself.
Great, thank you so much. Another question that has come through is from Lexi. And Lexi asks, have interviews already happened for the Diploma of Graphic Design? If not, when would this occur? I might give this one to you, Lauren.
Sure, thanks, Anna. So great to see, Lexi, that you're so on top of the extra requirements for the course that you're interested in. For anyone at home, the Diploma of Graphic Design requires a folio presentation as part of the application, and we can't actually assess students for offer unless they attend that folio presentation. So as of right now, we haven't conducted any folio presentations yet. They're all upcoming. And if you include a course in your preferences that does have extra requirements, we will be communicating with you to let you know what they are, how to attend, any instructions. Usually we would schedule any interviews or extra requirements for November / December after the VCE exam period is over. Obviously, because everything is so delayed with VCE this year, we've had to push back a lot of those extra requirements because we don't want to bother students while they're stressed about exams. We'd rather collect all of that information after the exams have finished. So definitely look out for that later in the year, and we will be in touch with communications about what to do next.
Great, thanks, Lauren. I do have a few other questions here for you.
Oh.
Another question from Rami, and Rami asks, does a higher preference mean a higher likelihood of receiving an offer?
Oh, okay. This is an interesting question, and I know it is a bit confusing with preferences. So in each round, each student can only receive one offer, and the offer that they receive will be the highest preference that they were eligible for. So if, say, your top 3 preferences are 3 courses and you weren't eligible for the top 2, the offer you will receive in that round will be for your 3rd preference. So that will be the preference that you'll hire for. If you are even eligible for courses below your 3rd preference, you won't see it in that round because the offer for your 3rd preference has blocked everything below that.
Great, thank you, Lauren. And another question from Ben, nice and simple. Should I change my preferences?
That is a good question. So what I would recommend is to do some offer shopping. So after the first round is over and you get your first offer, I would always recommend to be changing your preferences in between each round, because then that gives you visibility in later rounds of what other offers that you're eligible for. Because the last question I answered showed you that even if you're eligible for multiple offers, you're only going to receive one per round. So there's no harm in changing your preferences around just to see what other offers are out there that you're eligible for.
Another question is from Emma, and Emma asks, what COVID-related changes has Swinburne made to allow for interviews and testing that would happen as part of the application process? Again, Lauren, I might pass this one on to you.
Thanks, Anna. So yeah, as everything that's happened this year, normally a lot of our extra requirements for courses like face-to-face testing or interviews won't be able to run as they have in previous years. So most of that has been able to move online. We've got a couple of different processes in place that will help us facilitate that. We will communicate everything to students. So some examples might be for our Bachelor of Aviation, which requires additional testing in a flight simulator. Normally, we would invite students to Moorabbin Airport to conduct that in person. That's not a possibility this year. So we've implemented an online version of that flight simulator test, and students will be able to conduct that from home. It is important to note that once you've been communicated with, we will normally tell you if anything is required from your end. Like we may need you to have access to a webcam or a laptop with certain requirements. So feel free to get in touch if we haven't covered that in the communications, but we will let you know what's required for those additional requirements.
Awesome. Thank you, Lauren. Another question that has come through is from Andy, and Andy asks, I'm trying to cover my basis and add a pathway to my preferences, but I'm not sure what the best pathway for my course is. How would I find this out? Danny, I might pass this one to you.
Great question. On the Swinburne website, there's actually a pathway planner that students use to identify all of the different pathways available for that course. Just to go over the different pathway options that we have, the diploma that we have that pathways into the bachelor degree is actually a lower level of study than the bachelor, but students do receive credit for the work that they've and the units that they've studied before they pathway forward. With the UniLink diploma, which is another pathway option, it's actually at the same level of study as the bachelor degree, and then students would progress into the regular degree. But the main difference between the two that I haven't touched on yet is that The regular diploma is a qualification by itself. So once students have completed that diploma and before they pathway into the bachelor, they can actually enter the workforce with that diploma. However, with the Unilink diploma, it's not a standalone qualification and it can only be used to pathway into the regular bachelor's degree. So there's a few different options available, a few different features to each one, but it's always recommended to have at least 1 or 2 pathway options in your VTAC preference list.
Great, thanks, Danny. I just really want to highlight that as well. Please do make sure you do have pathway options in your VTAC listing, and do get in contact with Swinburne, check out our website, or again, talk to your career practitioners of the best type of pathway for you. Another question has come through, and that's from Alicia. And Alicia asks, this question is for Rachel. Why did you end up choosing Swinburne? Can you tell me about some of the other places you were considering perhaps? And what are your favourite parts of studying at Swinburne?
Yeah, great question, Alicia. So I've actually wanted to study the course that I'm doing right now, so the Bachelor's of Film and Television, since I was in year 9. So from an early on in high school, like I knew what sort of universities I wanted to go to based on like the courses they offered that were similar to what I was wanting to study. So obviously film and television is quite a niche course. So I really had like limited options in terms of where I wanted to go. The reason why I chose Swinburne was because they did offer a lot of different electives, and I like to study in a way where I'm not just doing film and TV for the 4 years. I'm also doing different subjects, such as business subjects or social science subjects, and that really breaks up the way I study really well. Obviously, I attended a lot of different open days, and I think the thing that drew me to Swinburne and the film and TV faculty in itself was the fact that a lot of their graduates had a lot of success in the industry. So Garth Davis, for example, though not a film and TV graduate, but a Swinburne graduate at that, his film Line was Oscar nominated a couple of years back. And a lot of the film and TV graduates are working in industry. So for example, some are working at 7 West, some have been nominated into film festivals that are BAFTA qualifying, Oscar qualifying. So it really did bring up the course for me in terms of it was the course that I really wanted to go to. In terms of the favorite parts of studying at Swinburne, definitely the fact that we do have like our own building. So it's kind of like it's really good to go there and be surrounded by people who are also in your course. There's a lot of teamwork as well, so you really get to know who you're working with and who you like to work with. And of course, Glenferrie Road, there's a plethora of food, social spaces. So it's always like a really good place to meet up with the friends that you make at Swinburne.
Great, thank you so much. And thank you for everyone who has submitted their question via the live chat function. I'd also like to thank our panel members today, Danielle, Lauren, and Rachel. Remember, we do have AMA on this week, so you can jump onto our website and chat with a course advisor like myself or Danny. And tomorrow, our academics will be jumping on as well for the Ask an Academic Day. It's a great opportunity for you to receive in-depth knowledge of courses, industry insights, and potentially meet your future lecturer or teacher. And if you're interested to find out what the future looks like for aviation in the wake of 2020, join us this Thursday, the 17th of September at 4 p.m. Finally, if you are a Year 12 student who has joined us today, I'd like to wish you all the very best for the remainder of Year 12 and hope to welcome you back onto campus next year. Till then, please keep in touch and visit us on swinburne.edu.au/choose. Please look after yourself and everyone around you. Take care.